Privilege to address this issue of SCHIP. This has been a significant frustration to me to grow up in a society where we had respect for the rule of law and fiscal responsibility, where we identified the pillars of American exceptionalism, and our charge was to go out and refurbish them. And what we have instead is a bill before us that apparently is a bill that's endorsed by the White House, Madam Speaker, that doesn't reflect these values at all. And I'd start down through the issue that is my charge here more than any other in this Congress, and that is this SCHIP bill does to undermine the integrity of the restraint that keeping the magnet shut off that attracts illegals into the United States. And it's clear. It's not a number that comes from my side, and it's not a number that comes from an activist group. These are numbers that come from the Congressional Budget Office. The requirement to verify the citizenship of Medicaid applicants by using a verified Social Security number has been taken out of this bill. And that amounts to a cost, according to the CBO, of $5.1 billion federally. It will bring an extra cost onto the states, according to the CBO, of $3.85 billion. So just that component, lowering the standard to open the door for anybody that wants to walk in the door and say, well, here's a Social Security number for you. And they'll sit there and say, okay, well, we've got a government program for you, even though your residence might well be another state and you may have come across the border illegally. That number, illegals applying for and qualifying under this open rule, comes to $8.95 billion between the state and the federal portion of this. And then another egregious affront to the standards that we have had since the beginning of immigration law in America was, when you come here, you're to be self-sustained. At Ellis Island, where they processed my grandmother included, they sent about 2% back because either they weren't physically able to sustain themselves or they didn't have a sponsor. And we had passed a law back in several previous Congresses that sets the 5-year bar, where you'll have a sponsor and they will be accountable that you will not go on the government dole for 5 years if you're a lawful permanent resident here in the United States. That's gone. That's gone if this bill passes. That's $6.5 billion, Madam Speaker. So those two pieces of this altogether are $15.45 billion in costs that either increase the magnet for legal immigration to come on welfare and opens the door and says on the first day you come here, you'll qualify for welfare legally. If you come here illegally, you can do the same thing for Medicaid by simply attesting to a Social Security number. No longer required to sign a form even that the information is right. That's been waived as well. You add these costs all up, there's another huge cost to this. And that is this tax increase. Now, I remember, and I'll go verbatim to the quote that came from then candidate and now our president, and that is, quote, "No matter what John McCain may claim, here are the facts. If you make under $250,000 a year, you will not see your taxes increase by a single dime. Not your income taxes, not your payroll taxes, not your capital gains taxes, no taxes. Because the last thing we should do in this economy is raise taxes on the middle class, and we've been saying that throughout this campaign," close quote. Now, here's this policy that may well land on the president's desk. That's his quote. This is a tax increase on the middle class. It's a tax increase. 99% of this tax increase, of the $72 billion that comes, goes on the middle class, those people making, by his definition, under $250,000 a year, Madam Speaker. So this is a huge tax increase on the middle class. And the final piece of this bill, and I think it is actually the biggest one, is that opening up the door beyond 200% of poverty and allowing waivers for states to go beyond 400% of poverty. In fact, Medicaid and for millionaires sets the stage. This is a foundation stone for socialized medicine in the United States, and I oppose the bill. I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I yield back.
The gentleman from Washington.